Your intuition might show you this vision of a beach house front in Florida, but it's not going to show you the steps that are going to be required to get there. It's not going to show you the uncomfortability of the growth and the healing that you're going to go through to get there. It's not going to show you the people you meet along the way. It's not going to show you the struggles and the pain or the super highs that get you to that space. Welcome, beautiful soul, to the Intuitively Connected podcast. I am your host, Rylee June. I am honored to be your intuition master coach and empowerment leader who has spent the past half a decade perfecting a method to walk you through deep cellular transformation so that you no longer need healers to help you thrive in your life. I have had the honor of supporting thousands of women across the world and watching them move through deep transformations from finding themselves, ridding the limiting beliefs and hurt of their past, finding that deep soul intuitive connection that we all desire and seek, and having them walk away a more empowered and connected version of themselves, thriving in so many different ways. This podcast is here to bust down the new age deceptive, manipulative energy tactics that are often found in the spiritual industry, share incredible guests transforming lives with specialized gifts and modalities to not only equip you with the knowledge of what to do, but to inspire you to take that action so that you can rise and thrive now and in your future too. From intuition, faith, mindset, emotional intelligence, physical care, and so much more, this weekly dropping podcast every Monday will give you the dose of knowledge you have been praying for. It's time to get you intuitively connected now. Are you ready? Let's dig in. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another session. I'm going to be honest. Today, I'm doing batch recording so that October and November, all the episodes that you could possibly need surrounding what is actually going to be the start of a 5 series on understanding your intuition. That starts today. Today we're going to be covering how your mindset and behaviors will either make or break your trust in your intuition. And the next 5 episodes are going to be just as in depth, but surrounding the emotional components of it, the spiritual components of it, how to attribute it to your life, your intuition connection, and so many incredible things. But as I'm doing these recordings, I'm going to be honest, I do not have any energy. Granted, I'm supposedly 3 weeks away from having a baby. I say supposedly because honestly, this child could come at any point. And I'm finding myself very overwhelmed with life in general. And it doesn't even matter what it is. It could be like the kids slightly arguing over a toy. It could be the fact that the dishes get to be done. It could be that there's laundry to do. It could be that my dog needs to go for a walk. And it's like every time I'm every time I need to do something, or I should say get to do something, I get this immediate sense of overwhelm. Like all my body wants to do is just lay down and sleep and not move. And that is not life. That is not reality. However, I am really learning to find a new level of balance for what my energy is telling me. And this is such a powerful lesson that really goes alongside what we're going to be talking about today, because as you grow and develop in your intuition, in your connection through your healing journey, there are going to be these times where your energy is just tapped right out. But equally, there are still going to be responsibilities that you are required to uphold. I can't not parent my kids. I can't not take my dog for a walk. I can't not keep the house tidy. That doesn't mean I have to do a deep clean, but the general things, right? I do not like having dishes on the counter in the sink. That's just something personally to me. So at the end of every day, everything is always made sure to be cleaned up for the morning, and even throughout the day. I like to make sure that everything's in the dishwasher. If there's clean dishes in the dishwasher, it's put away. So laundry, all these types of things, they just can't not be done for 2 reasons. One is because it is about keeping your environment clean. And when your environment is clean, your energy is clear, your mind can be clearer, and the actual anxiety and overwhelm that you carry can be identified so much more clearly, because when you look around for the evidence of why that's showing up for you, you can understand that it's not because of these tasks and chores of living life anymore. And that's where you really get to dig in and do the work. So before we dig into this, there is two things that I want to share. The first one being is a takeaway from an intuition immersion student. And as she was moving through module 2, one of the questions that's asked at the end of the chapter is, what was something you learned this module that you didn't know before? And her response was, I didn't know how much my brain is so connected to my energy and how it manifests things in my life. And what's so powerful about module 2 specifically is it dives into the mental component of really being able to look into analyzing and uncovering what is actually going on in your thoughts to cause and create certain energetic and emotional experiences, equally spiritual disconnections from your life that you might feel like you're limited or stuck or not evolving fast enough within. And when you can understand logically how your brain is connected to your energy, it actually allows you to have such a deeper level of discernment and detachment from the stories and the thoughts that you're telling yourself subconsciously, unconsciously, and consciously, and really being able to move through those experiences so much quicker. I'm going to pause there and I'm going to save this for us to get into the episode, because there's 3 main things that I want to share with you surrounding this topic of understanding your mindset and your behaviors and how they affect your trust and your intuition. The second thing that I want to share before getting into this is we are actually going to be moving Sip and Social. So because of baby and just the timing of this, I really thought that I would be able to show up and we would be able to make this happen. One of the other ladies who co-hosts this with us, she got an offer on her home and she's ending up moving so much faster than they anticipated. And so it just isn't going to work out for the timing. And equally, when we were talking to a lot of you, we were finding that many of you were very overwhelmed with getting your kids back to school and getting them set up for activities and really finding your routines. And so we are going to be moving our event to the beginning of November. The time and date will be announced very soon. And to anyone who has already pre-purchased your tickets, you can expect an email today that's going to be going out to each of you, whether you want to do a refund or you want to carry your ticket over to the next date and time when we do the event. So that option will be there for you. And we'll just connect and we'll sort it all out. So when it comes to trusting your intuition, we're going to get right into this episode because this is something that oftentimes people really struggle with. And it is, how do I know that my intuition is guiding me? How do I know how to trust in the direction that I'm being called? And today when it was sitting with my Bible and just like really asking for the clarity, even surrounding my energy at this time, like, God, how do I get to know you better today in my life? How can I work with you and have you work through me to find more patience for this season, this experience that I'm in, like all that is going on? And I was brought to the book of Proverbs, and not coincidentally, Proverbs 1, 20 to 33 talks about the call of wisdom. And ultimately, your intuition is guiding you to a greater sense of wisdom. But there is a standard and there is a level of acceptance that you have to be willing to allow yourself to surrender to really be able to tune into the wisdom that you are being guided to, whether it be in an unideal circumstance, whether it be in just like the lack of energy you may have around being 37 weeks pregnant, whether it's impatience, whether it's something going on that you're no longer available for in your relationships, in your health, in your finances, in your business. And so this particular passage is the call of wisdom. Wisdom calls aloud outside. She raises her voice in the open squares. She cries out in the chief concourse. At the openings of the gates in the city, she speaks her words. How long, you simple ones, will you love simplicity? For scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. Turn at my rebuke. Surely I will pour out my spirit on you. I will make my words known to you. Because I have called and you refused. I have stretched out my hand and no one regarded. Because you disdained all my counsel, and would have none of my rebuke. I also will laugh at your calamity. There's the word. Calamity. I will mock when your terror comes. When your terror comes like a storm and your destruction comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you. Then they will call on me, but I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but they will not find me, because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord. They would have none of my counsel and desires my every rebuke. And despise my every rebuke. Therefore they shall eat the fruit of their own way, and be fulfilled to the full with their own fancies. For the turning away of the simple will slay them, and the complacency of fools will destroy them. And whoever listens to me will dwell safely, and will be secure without fear of evil. And I find this passage just so incredibly eye-opening for many reasons. And we're going to talk about this for a couple minutes, and then we're going to get into these 3 things to really help you understand your mindset and your behavior surrounding trusting your intuition. And equally how this passage just incredibly ties together with what we're talking about today. So my first question to you is, how many times have you felt stuck, limited, overwhelmed, blocked, uncertain of something in your life, and you went to someone for help? Like, you genuinely went to your friend, your mom, your sister, your husband, and you said, okay, I can't handle this anymore. This is what I'm dealing with. Can you help me? What advice do you have? Let's talk. Maybe you even went to them and you're like, I can't stop dealing with this, and this is what's consistently is going on in my life right now. And someone gave you advice. They gave you a step. They gave you a way of looking at it differently. They maybe shared an outcome from their experience, and you completely dismissed what they did. Maybe you sat there and you took it and you're like, oh, okay, yeah. Or even went as far as to say, ooh, that's a good idea, but did not implement anything about what they actually shared with you. This particular passage is essentially talking about the same thing. So often we are willing to complain about what's going on, or we're crying out to the universe, to God, to help us with our situation. We're seeking the knowledge, we're seeking the clarity, we're seeking the understanding of why this is taking place. But then we refuse to receive the counsel. We refuse to let go of the fear. We refuse to take any other actions in our lives. We refuse to allow ourselves to actually have the support that we think that we're looking for. Now, one of the main reasons is because you're actually more likely just wanting the validation that your challenge is hard. But the problem with seeking the validation is that it doesn't actually help you to find a resolution out. And so this passage is a call to wisdom. That wisdom is always there. Even in your struggle, you don't even necessarily need to go to anyone else to figure it out. You just have to be willing to listen to what's going on. And in this passage, it offers that if your greatest fear in life is God, meaning that the judgment that could be cast, the fact that your soul could go to hell at the end of your days, because remember, we are all sentenced to death, no matter how many fountains of youth you find in the middle of caves, right? We're all sentenced to death. And so if your greatest fear is the end of your life and what God will place as judgment on you, then whatever it is that you're dealing with, is only truly temporary as you're going to allow it to be. And you're not going to mock other people out of a lack of insecurity. And you're not going to sit there in fear and anguish and distress when something comes upon you. And you will actually allow yourself to take in the advice, the wisdom, the knowledge that is being shown for you. Therefore, they shall eat the fruit of their own way and be fulfilled to the full with their own fancies. And so this specific line is saying that when we ignore knowledge, when we ignore the answer that God can provide for us, when we do not allow ourselves to take steps in a different direction, and we are just constantly looking for the fulfillment of our own desires, of the way that we think that it should be resolved, the way that we want something to be done, whether it's you want somebody else to do it for you, you want the problem to just go away without any type of acknowledgement or self-responsibility or accountability, or you want somebody else to change and you're not willing to change, whatever it is, you will always be stuck in the lack of fulfillment and the perpetuating of cycles of that same problem. I've shared this a couple times before. My husband and I used to literally live like we won the lottery all the time. So when I worked 3 jobs, so I always had tons of money coming into our relationship. He worked a really good job out of town, so he made a lot of really good money. And then when he got really sick, I was still working 3 jobs to provide for our family. When I couldn't work anymore, there was a period of time where we were relying on people in our lives, but we had a little bit of a savings. And then shortly after that, we ended up getting incredible insurance payout, and we call it our when we won the lottery. And we literally lived like we won the lottery. We blew through that in less than a year. And when I started my business, it really took off in a way that I didn't expect. And right around the same time, he also started his own business that took off in a way that he didn't expect. And when we would consistently run into financial problems where it was like, oh, okay, well, we need to start planning ahead, or we need to pay these bills, or, how are we going to pay these bills? It would always just work out for us. He would get a big contract. He would get a big check. I would have a big launch. Something would work out for us. And there came a point where eventually I really attribute this to God saying, if you're going to continue this lifestyle and never actually change what you do, you're going to fall on hard times. And we found that. We found that even when we were like, oh, we're going to move into our trailer for the summer and we're going to save a bunch of money and pay off a bunch of debt, we actually didn't make a bunch of money that summer. Literally, we made a whole bunch of money coming into it, lived like we won the lottery. And then when we came into a position where we were paying next to nothing for rent, utilities, water, groceries, all this gas, our bills got cut into a quarter of what we were ever paying. And we made the least amount of money living in that property than we ever did before. And what God was really showing us was he was humbling us to this wisdom that you think you can keep going about your life just cutting down and cutting down and cutting down, or living vicariously through the people you're comparing yourself to online, or through your family members when you run into tough times. But if you're not willing to look at the discipline of your own actions, and if you continuously choose to eat the fruit of your own ways, you will only be fulfilled by the same experiences that you are trying to get out of. The complacency of fools will destroy them. And I can attest to that through and through, because that was one of the biggest things we learned last summer, was really getting clear about our discipline surrounding our finances. So when it comes to, we're going to bridge this into how this passage specifically works so beautifully with your mindset and your behaviors and how it will make or break your intuition. When I was doing readings, I was so good at them. I am so good at reading energy. Sometimes it is such a temptation to just go back to doing them, whether it's for free on a live or whatever. I'm just I genuinely loved it. And I was really, really good at it. And I have a Google Drive folder full of hundreds of testimonies of people attesting to that. So it's not even me just inflating this, oh, I was good at that, with nothing to back it. Like, I have lots of proof to back it. But what I came to realize is that that isn't the best way. And even more so when it comes to trusting my intuition, to going down this road now where I'm solely focused and dedicated on supporting you in developing a deeper level of self-connection, inclining your spiritual gifts to God, being able to trust in yourself, in your life, overcome the challenge, the pain, the suffering of your past, and really redefine that story so that you can move forward in your life courageous, confident, connected, empowered, that I get to trust wholeheartedly that this truly is the direction for me. Even when in the middle of last summer was when I started making that switch and transition, that I was scared out of my mind. I was so afraid that it was going to crash and burn everything, that nobody would listen to me, that I would lose all this respect for the people that I had taught how to do readings, how to do all this energy connection and work. And what happened was, in that challenge of letting go of what I wanted, of eating the fruit of my own way and being fulfilled by my own fancies, being fulfilled of my own desire to continue on this path that was like clearly working really well monetarily, not actually spiritually, because I was deceiving people and saying that this was the best way. And not because I knew that I was deceiving them, but I didn't know I was deceiving them. So when I found God, and when Jesus presented himself in my life, and when I was really challenged to start to develop a deeper relationship, not religion, relationship with God, with Jesus, with myself, with the Bible, I came to find that there actually was a better way. And that even in all this evidence and proof that I had, that what I was doing, even though it was providing a sense, not actual peace, a sense of peace for people in their lives, that there was a greater option. And I really had to lean into the trust of the direction that my intuition was guiding me, even though it was so unfathomably uncomfortable. Unfathomably. There we go. There's the word. And so I had to look at my mindset, and I had to look at my behaviors, because as I was now evolving what I believed to be true, what was right, what my path was, these new steps that I was taking, how this was going to change our lives, I really had to trust that God had a better plan in mind. And my mindset wanted to tell me that this is wrong. You can keep doing readings. You can kind of indoctrinate or create this sense of your own understanding of who God is. Doctor, that's the word I was going for. Doctor who God is to. You can make the choice. You can choose your own definition, but the truth is that you can't. There's literally a book that says exactly who God is, and like if you try and sway from that, you're literally just making shit up. That's just how it is. So as I looked at that, and I looked at my behaviors, I looked at the behaviors that led me up to this point. You know, in many ways, my intuition guided me to this place that provided for our family, and it got my husband out of working, and you know, we were able to pay off some debt, but not all of it. And we were being guided to have a deeper level of discipline. And then God really showed himself to me in my life and course corrected me into the direction that I now live and lead by today. I had to look at the behaviors that I was following through with. I wasn't starting my day with any form of prayer, even when I was doing things that were of great success monetarily. I wasn't feeling that peace in my mind and in my heart, even though I had all the validation from people telling me how great my work was, or just like how much I had actually done and built up over the 3.5 years at that point, and or the 4.5 years at that point, or 4 years. because everything kind of started in July. So yeah, so 4 years last year. And my routines, my behaviors, my way of thinking, it was totally off course, even though what I was doing was seemingly working for everyone else. And my intuition led me to this space of, I remember having this message come through where it's like, if you really genuinely believe in what you do, in helping people to heal from their past, to find a better way to live in their life, to create sovereignty, mentality, emotional, financial freedom in their life, you have to really look at what you're doing and trust in me. And I made that leap. I took that step in faith, and I started to transition away from no longer doing readings, and then equally started calling out the new age deception that exists in this world and why it causes so much complacency in ourselves and so much of this need to self-validate and self-fulfill and self-reward. And, you know, it's so often talked about celebrating yourself, like go celebrate yourself, go buy yourself something. And by no means am I saying that I'm against that. And I think that there's such a power to it, truly. But it's like every time you do something great, or you have an awareness breakthrough, or, you know, a big change shows up in your life, how much glory are you actually giving to the source, to God, that you are calling on to get you there? Or is it just you going out to buy yourself something to say, hey, I did this? When it's like, there's a phenomenon to life. There is an energetic phenomenon to life. And when we are constantly validating ourselves, we are surviving off the reliance of ourselves. When we're not the ones who created time, we are not the ones who created energy, we are not the ones who created ourselves, right? We can co-create with that energy. We can co-create with God, but ultimately there is such a greater plan. There's a wisdom that is constantly coming through for us. And then in your lows, who are you relying on? Because in your highs, it's easy to rely on yourself and validate yourself and say, yes, the universe is in my favor. I am doing the best that I am doing. This is all working. Look at me go. But in the lows, who do you have to rely on? I was recently just talking with a woman, and her belief is in the universe, and she is in this low period of her life right now. She intuitively felt called to go and travel and to find herself and to find her new level of her work and a depth and a connection that she hadn't felt before. And she was relying heavily on the financial income that she used to be able to bring in. And ever since she went on this trip, she has been humbled to not even remotely making close to what she makes. And I find that so fascinating, and not in a way where it's like, oh, well, she deserves that by any means, but that as she hits this low, the thing that she talks about the most is not feeling supported by the universe. That she created such a survivalism and reliancy on herself that she struggles to see that there is a greater plan at hand here. That there is a humbling surrounding her connection, her faith, what's really driving the bus in her life. And that's a lesson that she just gets to find and discover and understand for herself in all of its facets and capacities. I can only oversight it from my perspective, the outside looking in. And with that being said, it's when we are constantly not allowing ourselves to lean on a deeper wisdom, meaning that our mindset, your mindset, how you're thinking, or a lack of awareness as to what you're thinking, and a lack of really looking at your behaviors and how they're creating certain circumstances and situations in your life, not how everybody else is playing a role, but how you specifically are playing the role, is going to equally be correlated to how well you can trust the intuitive guidance, the wisdom that comes through in the highs and the lows, the way God is showing you this greater experience and this greater gift that you are to this world, whether you want to speak on stages or help people heal their lives, or you're genuinely just in a space where you are seeking to heal and better evolve in your life. And when we want to trust in our intuition more, it is coming into a connection that is so much greater than just, oh, my intuition showed me this vision of these 5 clear steps that are going to get me to this one miraculous thing. Your intuition doesn't do that. It is not your intuition. That can be a vision that shows you the outcome, but then discerning and deciding, what is that actually going to take? Your intuition might show you this vision of a beach house front in Florida, but it's not going to show you the steps that are going to be required to get there. It's not going to show you the uncomfortability of the growth and the healing that you're going to go through to get there. It's not going to show you the people you meet along the way. It's not going to show you the struggles and the pain or the super highs that get you to that space. And it's not even going to show you the 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 20, 30-year plan that it might take for you to get there. But when you're choosing to validate yourself and you're choosing to rely on your own wisdom and knowledge, you're constantly going to feel let down because that vision's just not coming true right away. You just assumed it would come through when maybe it wasn't even the vision of a beach house or a beachfront house that you're meant to own. Maybe it's a resort that you're going to go to, or an experience someone's going to invite you, and you never truly know how that's supposed to show up or play out in your life. And so when you can look at your mindset, when you can look at your beliefs surrounding what you're calling into your life and why you're calling it into your life, and equally your behaviors surrounding where you are that's unideal and uncomfortable and not what you want it to be, then you can really start to have an honest conversation and allow the wisdom that God is trying to share with you to come through and guide you in such a deeper way. And then your ability to trust becomes almost effortless, because now you're not fearing the downside of the circumstance that you were stuck in. You're not contracting into the overwhelm and the anxiety and the disempowerment that is perpetuating from this unideal challenge. You're starting to lean into this space of knowing that that there is a safety net, that God is your safety net, that He's actually guiding you. And to take this full circle in this realization of really tuning into what I was believing to be true and expanding on that belief, going from, universe and guides and whatever I want God to be could be whatever it needs to be, to no, actually there's a lot of things that aren't correct here, or accurate or true or right. And God can be this even more incredible, empowering and special thing in my life. And I looked at my behavior specifically around our finances that we were struggling with. When I really started to take that self-accountability, I was able to start trusting in the guidance to have a deeper level of discipline, to make this commitment and these changes and see them through. And then equally on the other side, within a few months, when Phil started getting sick, again at the end of, or the beginning of November of 2021, I was able to trust that this was leading us to something bigger than I could anticipate. And I knew that there was something coming leading up to him getting sick and having a heart attack again. And I knew that we would have really struggled, because our intention was to full out live in the trailer for the winter. And we could have done it. It would have been extremely uncomfortable, not just because of the cold, but him not even being in a position health-wise to actually keep up with the maintenance that would have been required for us to keep the propane on, so that we did have heat and all these types of things. So when I started to look at my behaviors, when I started to look at my beliefs, when I really started to lean on God for that trust and that truth, and trust that my intuition was guiding me to something better, It was the middle of November, so he had gotten out of the hospital. It was like a week later, and we looked at each other and we're like, we're going to have to figure out a way to move. And we didn't even know how we were going to make this happen. We didn't necessarily have the money to do it, the down deposit to pay for the rent of where we were. Like, we had no idea. And even though my business was bringing in a substantial amount of money, like October, November, and December, January and February were probably my biggest months in my business period. But again, because of that lack of discipline and implementation, right? We're living like we're millionaires when we were not, being honest and real. We found ourselves having to just trust that everything would work out. And we found the place that we're in now. We really started putting our heads down and implementing discipline surrounding our spending, tracking it, allocating it properly. If you don't tell your money where to go, it's just going to go. So we started directing our money in a specific way and leaning on our intuition, leaning on this trust, and finding a place that was 2 hours away from where we were, complete opposite side. We went from west to east, and it is the perfect home. And we have paid our rent. We are paying our bills. We have food in the fridge. We've never lacked food in our fridge, which I'm very, very grateful for. We're paying off debt now more than we were before, and not having to rely on everyone else in our life like we used to try and bail us out. And it is really because of our mindset, of our behaviors, of trusting that God has got our backs, and allowing us to trust in our intuition when, even in the uncomfortable steps, we know that we can choose the empowerment and the trust that everything is really guiding us to a greater place. So I invite you, I'm going to leave you with this. I'm going to invite you to really lean into where your unideal circumstances in your life right now are actually calling you to discern and uncover a deeper level of wisdom, where you're being guided to actually, in fact, look at how you're believing, or what you're believing about your current situations, and what behaviors, what role are you playing in those uncomfortable situations. Are you continuously allowing someone to speak to you in a negative way? Are you continuously allowing someone to perpetuate negative behaviors towards you? Do you continue to go to the same people and have the same conversations that are not serving you over and over again? Do you continue to break promises to yourself or perpetuate bad habits that are keeping you in these same cycles? And most importantly, how and where and when are you letting God speak to you in your life? What time are you setting aside to really welcome His guidance and His grace and His love for you, to show you that He is your safety net to the other side? All right. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I would love and appreciate if you could go to iTunes and leave a review so I can share it on the podcast, and even just equally come and thank you. I love knowing how what I'm sharing is standing out for you, how it is supporting you, and just it lets me know that this podcast is truly just something that needs to be out in this world. So I want to thank you for choosing to spend your time here with me today, and I'm sending you so much love. Before you go, I would love and appreciate so much if you could take a moment of your time to leave a 5-star review. It helps me to be able to get this message out to so many more in the world, and I am so truly thankful that you choose this place to be every single week. Until next time, don't forget to find the magic in today.